Welcome to Crack the Friendship Code. I'm your host, Theodora Voss. My pronouns are her, she, hers. I'm seated against a white wall with vinyl records hanging up behind me. I have long black hair today, and I'm a Black woman with a dark and warm skin tone. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're seasoned here, nice to connect with you again. I've been in the learning and development industry for over 13 years, and I've contracted with some of the biggest companies in tech. I love learning and I love teaching. I've experienced so much of my own loss in life, from losing my mom at age 13 to my best friend passing away and going through a divorce, all at the age of 26. I understand the importance of developing genuine friendships as a result. All of these experiences has birthed what you now see as Crack the Friendship Code. On our show, you're going to hear from myself and other women who have achieved success in different levels of their lives, whether it be career, business, or passions. Along the way, we have all discovered the importance of aligning our friendships with our purpose. And our hopes are that you too can ignite purpose aligned friendships and have more meaningful and genuine friendships. And with that, let me introduce today's guest. But before I do that, every woman who is on our show is nothing short of incredibly successful and amazing. So meet Urumi Hossain. She is Bengali by blood and Italian by birth. She works in the financial services industry in Canada, where she is currently residing. She's a self-published author, speaker, blogger, polyglot, and mentor. She is the holder of the CFA Charter, one of the highest designations in financial industry. Her first book is Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. She is an advocate of women's empowerment and very passionate about teaching and mentoring other girls and women. She is part of the organization called Women in Leadership for the Victoria chapter in Canada as the social media lead, where she spreads the message of gender equality and more women in leadership positions. Yes. She enjoys being a promoter of self-investing and personal development. In her free time, she enjoys reading books and practicing Muay Thai. With that, let me go ahead and introduce to you our guest, Urumi Hossain. Welcome, Urumi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's nice to have you here. I'm so excited to get started. I love, first of all, that you have a passion for encouraging girls and women. That is something I feel like that when you have that kind of support at a young age, of other empowered and powerful women, just the trajectory is so much different for young girls. So I really appreciate the work that you do. So thank you for doing that. And we align closely, obviously, for that reason.
Thank you for having me. I'm just gonna give you a short introduction of me and tell you where I am. So my pronouns are her, she, hers. I am currently seated in this room against a white wall. There is a brown closet behind me. I have a window next to me, but there are curtains right now because it's raining. So my curtains are red and green, and I have a orange t-shirt on me and have long dark hair.
Awesome. And she looks beautiful, y'all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, let's hop right in. You have a really impressive career, right? Like just from, reading your bio and, getting to know more about you. But you also do some really purposeful and powerful work. So I've noticed for a lot of people that career can also be mistaken with purpose. And sometimes it's really career is the vessel, or, some of the activities you do are the vessel to actually attaining our purpose. So for you, what would you say is your purpose?
I would say for me, my purpose is to empower other people, especially women. And I do that through like a lot of my work. And basically, what I tend to do is I usually tend to identify the strengths in people and tell them to pursue it. And I usually encourage them to go for it when they have an idea, when they have an interest in something, when they have a passion for something. And I just tell them, go for it, develop it. And I feel like my job is really to build that confidence in them. So that's what I feel like it's my purpose.
I love that. I really do. I love that. So on your journey, right, to empowering others and giving them confidence, What are some of the mindsets or limiting beliefs that you had to let go of?
For me, it was maybe, I would say, like we were discussing before, I felt like I was never capable of doing things. So
Mm,
like, I can't do this. Like that was one of the things that I was like, it was always like engraved in my mind, or I'm not good for this, or I'm not good enough for this. And it was like for a while. And I think that like I would always think like that. I had these negative thoughts in my mind that I was like, you know what? I'm not good enough with anything, so I'm not gonna start anything.
mm,
But then with time, what happened is I was like, you know what? I see people around me being able to achieve things. So if they can do it, why can I not do it? So I had to let go of some of these beliefs, and I had to like work a little bit on that because I feel like at the end of the day, it's not about, having the skills, but it's more about your belief, self-belief and mindset. And so I started to like journal a little bit, started to use like self-affirmations, started to reframe my sentences. And also I started to be surrounded by people that were actually achieving these things. And by doing that, I was able to like work on myself and being able to come or to arrive where I am right now. Because even with little things like, my blog, I was like, oh, I will never have a blog. I'm not good at writing. But I knew that I just had to work on it. And it's about like taking the time, not giving up. And so I feel like it was really just letting go of those negative words and just reframe them and make them more positive because I feel like at the end anything is really achievable.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I like that you gave some practical steps, affirmations, surrounding yourself with the right people. That's huge. And you know what? It's really interesting that you were able to identify that piece while you were, in the like weeds of getting to your purpose, because it takes sometimes people a while to figure out, oh my gosh, I need to surround myself with people that are, achieving the things that I see for myself too. So that's awesome. Um, so along this journey, were there any friendships that you kind of had to part ways with?
So you know what? I wouldn't there was never an actual conflict, but I would say that I did part away with some of my friends, but I think it was just like a natural process, like in life. It's
Hmm.
like when you are at school, you're very close with the people that you see at school, but once you graduate, you never go and talk to them unless you make an effort.
Yes.
Same thing when you're working, right? Like you work in an environment, you see these people for like 40 hours, 5 days a week, and you build really strong relationship. But as soon as you change job, no one makes an effort about it.
Mm,
However, I must say that me as a person, I actually make an effort in any sort of relationship. So some friendships that were like I felt they were not really meeting a purpose or not serving my needs, or maybe some friendship where I saw that the other person wasn't making an effort to make it work, I just let it go and I never went back. And for
mm,
some others, I take the time to cultivate it. Indeed, I would say that my longest and the strongest friendship are with people that are not located in my same city.
mm-hmm.
Like my closest friends, I would say I have some that are in Montreal, of course, who I don't see as often, but we always talk to each other as if like we are close to each other. And some other friends are actually in Italy. And no matter the distance, I think for me, as long as they're close to my heart, that's all that's important.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to answer your question, some I would say friendship just parted ways because it was just part of life, and some others I actually, when I felt like these people were encouraging me and supported me, I always made an effort to keep them with me.
I love that. I love that. It's so true. It's some of the friends that are the furthest away that you like kind of least expect too, right? That are the closest sometimes. Actually, yeah, a lot of my really good friends are all all over.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I like that you said, it was a natural progression. I think sometimes we think that things have to be wrong or somebody has to have done something to have a friendship breakup. And that's not
Mhm.
necessarily true. Sometimes you just drift apart or you start focusing on different things. So I really like that you called that out. So once you kind of shifted out of some of those friendships, or you just had your natural drift, was there any impact that you noticed on your life?
So I would say that probably the biggest impact is that my circle of friends became smaller
Hmm.
and more diverse, but it was like quality, like I had good people around me. Because before maybe I would have some people that were around me who maybe I considered them good friends. Maybe I thought they were saying good things to me, but I would often be criticized or judged for the work that I was doing instead of being encouraged for what I was doing. And so that used to build a lot of toxicity because I was constantly being judged for like, being on a podcast or having a YouTube channel rather than, seeing the courage that I'm able to be out there and
Yeah.
talk about myself and be vulnerable and authentic. And so with these people, I just let them go. And with that, I felt like I started to have more, let go of toxicity and be a bit more healthier.
Mm.
And I feel like now I have a very small group of friends who will always be there for me. And I need that. I need that type of support that I have people cheering for me for everything that I do. That are always pushing me. So I feel like I finally achieved that. But I also think it came as I became mature through time, as I
Absolutely.
grew older, I think you recognize who are there for you and who are just there for the sake of being there, but they're not really there.
Exactly. That's so true. And you know what? I think that's really powerful. Like we talk a lot in our tribe about celebration. And,
Mm.
a lot of times people have a hard time celebrating others because they haven't developed the ability to celebrate themselves yet. So it's almost easier to criticize or to, bring someone down to their level.
Yes.
So yeah, we really have to develop that habit of like, let's talk positively into ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Um, so okay, you figured out your purpose, you started finding friends that, could draw in, you parted ways with some of the friendships that didn't make sense anymore. Were there any beliefs or norms about friendships that you had to like, break up with?
You know what? When I was growing up, I didn't have that many male friends. And I used to think, oh, female and males cannot be friends.
Hmm.
But as I grew much older, actually, most of my friends are actually guy friends. So this whole norms that oh, men and women cannot be friends is not true. It's like so not true. I think it can, like you can have friends of the opposite sex. And I think it's good because it just helps you to get a different perspective. And I feel like sometimes when you have a friend from the opposite sex, I think it's always better. Um, and I think it's always better, and I think it's always like healthy to develop that kind of friendship because I feel like sometimes, especially like female to female, there could be a little bit of jealousy. I feel some female could feel a little bit like envious. So I think it's always good to have like a friend from the opposite sex. And this whole notion that oh yeah, women and men cannot be friends is so not true. Literally, so not
Mm.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it takes time and maturity to develop those types of friendships and healing some core wounds of
Hmm.
past male-female
Hmm.
friendships, right? So that's fair. Um, okay, so tell us about any positive like friendship experiences that like just really impacted your journey.
So I would say I have so many that I can talk about, but there is one that happened to me when I used to work in my previous company, and she is one of my closest friends. And I always tell her that not only she's my friend, but she's my mentor. And I actually came up with the word which is friendtor. And yeah, and she has been there for me for the past 6 7 years, and she has been, I would say, my truest friend, if that's the way to say it,
Yeah.
who would always like see me for who I am without judging me. And I could always be like very open to her. Like I was never worried about whatever I was saying. And she would really, really understand me. So I felt like she's very compassionate and empathetic. And I think every person needs that kind of person. And she has been a great guide for me. Like every time I have a question, I
Yeah.
go to her. Every time I need guidance, she's there for me. She provides me with resources. And so she has been like my greatest friend, but also my greatest mentor.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That sounds like such a fruitful and like fulfilling friendship. I love that for you. Okay, so it is your turn to this is your turn now. You're in the hot seat. You have to do the interviewing now. This is your opportunity to ask me any friendship related question or questions, plural, that you may have or want a different perspective on.
So, in your opinion, how long does it take to truly know a person or to truly know that this person is going to be your friend forever?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And I don't think you're gonna like my answer, but never, you never know. I think it takes, well, I will say it takes at least 3 months to gauge whether or not this is somebody that you can trust, but that's 3 months of actively developing the friendship, and making time for the friendship and asking intentional questions and spending time around the person. So I think at least 3 months to get a feel for if this is somebody that you want to be friends with, you right? Um, but we'll never know if somebody's going to be a lifelong friend. Something that we practice in our Crack the Friendship Code tribe is taking risks when it comes to friendships. And we've learned that every relationship, every friendship, even our familial connections, they're all risks. And all we can do is be calculated in our risk by taking our time, getting to learn people, trust them with a little bit, but trust them with a little bit more until you can start trusting them with the larger things. But even then, there's friendships that have broken up after 10 years or like 20 years, and you just don't know. So
Yeah,
sorry. I
yeah.
know the audience doesn't like it either. I know, tribe. Sorry.
I don't know where I read it, but they said it usually takes 7 years, but I actually don't think it's true because I've known some people for 7 years and then it happens that they just don't talk to me anymore. So I'm like, you know what? I think your answer is pretty much true. Like it's never enough. And I think it's because we just continuously change and evolve
Yes.
as people.
Yes.
And so 3 months, 6 months, 10 years, I think you will never know, honestly.
No. And that's why I really liked what you said earlier about just the natural progression of the relationship was over, And so
Hmm.
I think if we practice more of that, we could really,
Hmm.
it's so funny. I keep talking about this post. I made a newsletter post today for our audience about being in the moment with some of your friendships and when things are good. And so I think if we embrace the fact that we're all ever changing and evolving, we're all, always, encountering new things, learning new things, we could really start to appreciate people in that moment versus trying to cast a vision sometimes for what
Hmm.
we want them to be or where we want them to be in our lives. We end up missing out on really meaningful moments because of that.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
definitely agree on that.
That was a really good question and very well
Mhm.
thought out. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
next
you.
time you could come on and interview me all the way.
Sounds good. Sounds
But
good.
thank you so much for having me here. Everyone, just so you know, we're going to plug all the links into the show notes so you can get in touch with her. And we would love to have you back. I thought you had really thoughtful questions, thoughtful answers, and I just really appreciate your energy and your time. So thanks for being on today.
Thank you.
Bye.